Matthew Hussey here from Love Life. I'm going to ask you a question today, and I want you to think in your head about the honest answer you have to it. Do pessimists make better partners? This is a question that's been interesting me lately, and I feel particularly passionate about it because I'm often accused in slightly, I guess, a surprising way to most people, I'm accused of being a pessimist. And this is because often, especially in business, when someone comes to me with an idea, or when I have an idea, I often approach it with an attitude of, when someone says, this is amazing, I go, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if this works. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. And for me, I'm always about testing things and seeing where they realistically go. I might have a hunch about something being good. I might have a hunch about something being a great idea, a great marketing strategy. But until I actually see it in action, until I see it work, I don't sit there and get really optimistic about it. I don't even see it, by the way, as being a pessimist. I think pessimism is often confused with realism. One of the most arrogant groups of women I ever coached was a group of brides-to-be. I was asked by Cosmopolitan to go and work and speak to a whole audience of women who were brides-to-be. They were all engaged. And I stood in front of this audience and I started this speech. And the speech essentially went down the theme of, don't think that because you're getting married that your work is done. Essentially, the journey begins here. This is a whole new era and it all begins again here. If you think that being married is a guarantee of a great relationship or a guarantee of staying together, you're severely mistaken. What will allow you to create an amazing relationship is the effort that you put in by this point, and don't think you can stop learning. Now, I remember when I was saying this to this group of people, they looked at me like I was an alien. It was almost like they were looking at me saying, oh, you don't know me and my man. We're amazing together. We don't need to work on this. We don't need to hear this. We're getting married. We're in love. We don't need all of this stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, if the statistics are true, 50% of you in this room will already end in divorce, pretty much before you've begun. And the 50% that remain in the marriage, well, 50% of you will be unhappy and married. So let's say at best you've got a 1 in 4 chance of staying married and happily married. This is not the time to be arrogant, but so many people are because they call themselves optimists. And I think optimism is a euphemism in many cases for laziness. In other words, things will all just work out. It'll work itself out. You know, we're supposed to be together. And of course, as soon as you have this supposed to be together idea, as soon as you have this idea that it will all work out, that usually is when people stop trying. See, I'd rather take on a difficult truth like, you know what? If I'm with someone for life, it's highly likely that they might at times get bored of having sex with me. I'd rather know about that truth and learn ways to counter it than to ignore the truth altogether. See, to ignore the truth altogether would be to say, my partner will never get bored of having sex with me. We have the most amazing passion and intimacy, and it's incredible now and it will stay incredible because that's who we are. Well, maybe, but also maybe you're in year 2 of your relationship. And in year 30 of your relationship, it might not be exactly the same as it is now. If you accept that truth, then you also accept the idea that you might have to do things to make it exciting. You might have to surprise your partner. You might have to remain a little unpredictable. You might have to find ways to increase desire in moments when naturally it wears off a little, because anyone can be guilty of losing desire for something they already have every day of their lives. That's natural, that's human, that's not pessimism, that's realism. And if we understand that and have a realistic idea of relationships, we can actually find ways to counter some of the biggest problems of relationships. But we have to start from a realistic place. So my view is, yes, there are pessimists about relationships. Yes, there are people that say it will never work out, no relationship stays together. Those I would class as pessimists. But people who have a healthy caution about the perils of long-term relationships are usually the ones that have a more realistic view of relationships and actually have the power to grow, to learn skills that will allow them to make the relationship better, and actually don't have the arrogance of sitting back and saying it'll all work itself out, which, as we know, for all of those romantic people that just say it'll all work itself out, most of them get to a point where eventually they become disillusioned because their entitled idea of what the relationship should have been on its own didn't quite pan out. I would put to you that realism is severely underrated in relationships, and only when you have realism can you start to work towards optimism, not by some false hope, but by actually practicing the things that make a situation better. That's it for today, my friends. Follow me on Facebook, Coach Matthew Hussey. I will see you there.